everyone, and welcome to your Knitty Gritty Roadmap to Learn to Knit Day 3. My name is Lois, and I am the instructor and designer for Aussie Lozzie Knit Designs. I'm so excited to have you join me today. We are working through the Knitty Gritty workshop, and yesterday we dedicated time to learning more about knitting needles and yarn and which ones can maybe set us up for beginner knitter struggles and failure, and which ones can set us up for success and not give us trouble. Because we don't want to be struggling, and it's actually the tools and materials fault. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and look at it, because if you're struggling, there may be some different things that you can try out to make your learning to knit journey easier. Today's video, though, is all about the knitting skills, the foundation knitting skills, and how important they are to knitting and how important they are to your knitting journey, that you dedicate the time to learning how to do these things very well, okay? And so I'm going to switch to our slideshow. Yay, knitting skills. And we're going to talk about the foundation knitting skills, because I think it's really easy for beginners when we get into knitting. We're like, oh, I'm going to knit cables, or I'm going to knit color work, and I'm going to do Fair Isle, and I'm going to do this and that. And there's so much amazing knit things that we can learn, and there really is. But we're new and we're excited and we just want to go, go, go so fast. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, because I think that if you can take the time to learning the foundation knit skills and really take time to learn them and perform them very well, it's going to help you so much with all the things that you want to learn, and you will be able to learn them, okay? So before I tell you what the foundation knit skills are, I wonder if you can answer a question for me. How many different stitches are there in knitting? Do you have any idea? Could you put it in the comments or send me an email and let me know what you think? Because I think it's really important for us to know how many stitches we're going after and all of that good thing. So I'm going to give you a minute to let me know what you think. And here comes the answer. Believe it or not, but it is 2. Knit and purl. That's it. Knit and purl. 2 stitches in knitting. That's all you have to learn. And in fact, if you thought 2 stitches was a little, I'm going to make it even smaller, because when you are making a knit stitch, you're actually making a purl stitch. When you are making a purl stitch, you're actually also making a knit stitch. It's the same stitch. It's just a different side. It's like 2 sides of a coin. It's a quarter, right? But one side has a face and the other side has whatever it has on it, right? Same with knitting. When you are making a knit stitch, the other side is the purl. And when you're making a purl stitch, the other side is the knit. It's one stitch, but we use different methods to make it. So it's the movement that we're doing that makes it the knit stitch. It's what we're seeing when we finish making it that makes it the knit stitch. And the back end of it is what is the purl side. Same with a purl stitch. It's how we're making that stitch that makes it the purl stitch. It is what we see when we finish that makes it the purl stitch. And the other side of that is the knit stitch. So it's just 2. You only have to learn 2 stitches in knitting. I hope that that gives you an understanding of the power of knit and purl, but also the reassurance that if you spend a lot of time practicing knitting, practicing purling, a lot of time, and you dedicate yourself to really getting those 2 stitches down to the point where you don't have to look at a tutorial video to make them. You don't have to look at a tutorial video when you switch between knitting and purling. Like, you've got it down. If you can get to that point, then you can learn everything that's on your heart's desire, right? You can learn cable work, and you can learn color work, and you can learn all the things, because when we're making cables, when we're making color work, we're knitting and purling. That's it. It's knitting and purling. It's really that simple. But if you rush ahead without spending the time to really learn how to knit or purl, when you go to add in cables, it's going to be really complicated because you didn't know what you were doing when you were knitting and purling. So that's why I say really take the time to learn the basic knit, the basic purl stitch, and it's going to serve you very well in your knitting journey. So let's talk about the foundation knit skills because it's more than just knit and purl. We also need to get yarn on our knitting needles, and that is called cast on. So you want to be able to cast on. Then you want to make fabric. We do that by knitting and purling. And then you want to be able to take the stitches off of your knitting needle in a way that they don't come unraveled, and that's known as binding off. So what I recommend is, as a beginner, that you select one cast on method, just one. You can knit so many things with one cast on method. A lot of patterns don't even call for a specific cast on method, so you can use whichever one you like or that you're used to. But so pick one cast on method to learn and just practice it, practice it, practice it, and get comfortable so that you don't have to review how to do it. And when you're at that point, then go ahead and learn how to knit and purl, etc. Binding off is a little bit easier. So you don't actually get as much practice with binding off as you do knitting, purling, and casting on. But good news, the basic bind off that I use like 90% of the time is the basic bind off. It just uses knit and purl. That's it. So you're still going to be using the skills that you learn when you're practicing knit and purl to bind off. And that is so exciting because it means one less thing that you have to worry about. Okay, so hopefully now you can see how important it is to spend the time learning how to knit and purl. Because even when you're slipping stitches, you do that knitwise and purlwise. And I do add to this increases and decreases sometimes. I certainly add it in when I'm teaching people to knit. That's part of my program, that you learn how to increase and decrease. But increasing and decreasing still uses knit or purl. It just does. Everything is made with knit and purl. And so if you can master knit and purl before you push yourself into cable work, you're going to be doing just fine. Okay? Again, you want to select one cast on method that you can use at the beginning. And once you're really comfortable with your knitting and you're knitting from patterns, you can begin learning more. But for now, you could just select one, and you can even use that for most patterns because they don't call for a cast on method a lot of times. And in fact, just real quick, on my Facebook page, I'm doing a series in Knit Bits, cast on methods, where we're taking a look at the function of the cast on, what purpose it serves, and how we can substitute those out. So if you want more information about cast on, you can definitely check out that series in those videos. But you need a cast on, then practice your knit and your purl stitch, and then bind off. And then you can add in increases and decreases. And then if you take the time to get these skills down, you can select whatever it is you want to learn next. Is it color work? Is it cables? Is it just more complicated stitch patterns where you're like doing ribs or a diagonal rib or whatever it is that you want to knit? You can pick that next and learn it so much easier than if you rush ahead. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to wrap things up where I share with you the 4 steps for knitting success. These are 4 steps you can apply when you're a beginner and when you're not a beginner. Because whenever I learn a new knit skill, technique, whatever, I go back to my 4 steps and I just follow this process. So I know that it works from personal experience. And so we're going to go through that tomorrow, and that will wrap up our Knitty Gritty Roadmap. Thank you so much for joining. If you enjoyed this video, would you please hit like, share, and subscribe? Thanks so much. Bye-bye.